Cool. Hey, so this is Matthias. I'm the one of the co-founders of Shogun Wars, a play-to-earn game here on Arbitrum. I've been in crypto for a few years and really just digging into the DeFi and the NFT space. So I thought we'd make some long-form content here. And yeah,
Hey guys, I'm Steve, joining Matthias here. I've had some experience in Web3, a lot of NFT and crypto investment. Been working with Matthias on Shogun War. I'm a contributor for Shogun War. Been writing all the lore for them. Call myself master of lore, funny enough. And yeah, I do writing for Shogun War. I've helped with the tokenomics. I worked in Big Four public accounting for 3 years, and I work for an investment bank, so I have some finance and accounting background. So been able to with helping them build the tokenomics for the game. And I think Matthias and I were just talking about how ripe the Web3 space is for growth in a bunch of different areas, and one of those areas is podcasting. And we both just have a lot of fun shooting the shit and chopping it up about Web3, Shogun War, other projects, potential projects, and the space in general. And so we thought, like, we have so much fun talking. Why don't we just actually do a podcast and try to turn the shit talking and shooting the shit into something a little bit more informative. And it's been a cool exercise too, because we've been able to do a lot of research and familiarize ourselves even more with the space.
yeah,
Pull together what we
we'll let the
learn,
world
and
in.
yeah, exactly, and tell you guys what we've learned. So hopefully we don't sound too much like idiots on this, but I think we're both pretty smart guys, and we're both pretty articulate, if I do say so myself. And so we just wanted to have some fun and just
It's
have
our
a
first
cool.
Oh my god! Wow, it is really our first podcast episode.
If you can't tell by the gibberish right there,
Yeah,
I think it's our first podcast episode. We were talking about having Gary V on, but I think it might be a little bit too early for that.
yeah, yeah. It literally only gets worse from here, so we'll
Yeah.
jump into it. But we do have stuff to actually go over. We have articles and all that, so stuff from the web. But we have so on my side, I got a few different articles I was going to run through. I'll just shoot off titles so you guys know what you're getting into before we get into it. So mental health and being a founder, kind of key. And we both kind of bring different viewpoints to this, which is amazing. We get to see kind of both sides. And then some gaming specific play to earn gaming tweets from OX Rise, the Delphi Digital gaming guy over there, and then financialization of NFTs. Great article, 12 pages, super beefy. So yeah, that's what I got.
Yeah, and I'll be talking about another three things. The first is Anata NFT. Hopefully, I don't butcher that. They're doing a fair launch
We'll never
tomorrow.
know how it's
Yeah,
pronounced
we'll
anyway,
we'll
so it's
never know.
good.
I can only assume. I mean, I think it's Japanese, and so I'm trying to sound as Japanese as possible when I say it. I'm going to be talking about that. I'm going to be talking about another one that I might butcher. Thales, which is which is a parimutuel market platform. They're going to be launching on Polygon soon. And then I'm also going to be talking about a comment letter that Delphi sent to the SEC regarding an amendment to Reg ATS,
Yeah.
which sounds very meaty and sounds very dry, but it's actually kind of cool. And I think it's something that could potentially have some effects on the crypto industry, Web3 space in the future. So we just wanted to touch on it a little bit.
Yeah. We'll put some spice on it. We'll make it
Yeah,
interesting. I
exactly.
mean, that's our job, right?
Put some salt and pepper on it so you guys don't think it's tasteless.
Exactly. So I can jump in just for the first one. If you want to go back and forth here.
Yeah,
Really
sounds
the
good.
kind of key, yeah, cool. Well, so the key takeaways on the mental health and being a founder stuff, like the article really goes over a lot of different things, but my kind of I think the really important points, basically, it's a lot of the same stuff whenever you're in kind of a high stress situation or
Hmm.
a high stress work. You know what I mean? Like, working in Big Four, like you probably have the same kind of thing, right? Where it's like deadlines, there's always something critical. Like there's never a week where something's not critical, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's I know what you're talking about it, and it's tough too. I think, like, before you even get into it, I don't want to sound like I'm stealing your article from you, but
No, you're good.
you get so much exposure to entrepreneurship as you get a little bit older. A lot of people, they take what they've learned, whether it be from college or just in life, and they try to apply it and make it their own. And that can look like a business, but it can look like a million different things too. And no matter what, like, I feel like when you try to create something from scratch, and especially when you put your livelihood on the line. I feel like those two things together just create a lot of stress because there's a lot of the unknown. And I think, one, you're struggling with the unknown, and two, you're struggling with making
Mhm.
something that you're proud of. And I think that those two things mixed with the fact that it's just there's no way you're not working long hours when you're an entrepreneur. I think those three things really create a lot of stress for people. So I think it's a good topic, and it's probably something that hasn't been explored too much with regards to Web3.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'd like to go actually through each point, and then we can just jump on it like each one, like we can kind of have a different take on it. Because like, so basically, the first real takeaway here is find people that are in the same boat as you. Other founders, other entrepreneurs, any other person that's kind of in the same situation you're in. Which I do think they're basically going to give you the best kind of support and the best advice, since they kind of know what it's like going through it. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes it a bit easier to kind of commiserate, and even if you're just sharing beers or sharing war stories, it's a little bit makes the road less bumpy. But that I kind of think helps out. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, we were joking about it yesterday when we were talking about drowning, but there is some comfort in numbers, and I think like you have to try to find whatever way you can to get a little bit creative with the way that you get comfortable with the people around you. And I think that those things kind of help de-stress quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's some stuff that's actually really interesting where it's like discords where it's a lot of different founders. I do know there's some like exclusive stuff where it's not that you really want to keep out other people so much as you want to kind of know that you belong already when you're getting in, which is kind of a use case, I think, for NFTs, which we can, of course, get into more later and stuff like that, too. But yeah, I think that is one of the use cases is kind of bringing down, like giving you a reality point with every other person that owns this asset
Hmm.
or owns this pass. You know what I mean? Like if you go into a place and it's like, oh, okay, this is all Bored Apes in here. Oh, they all know what it was like when we dipped, or they know what it's like to either pay a ton of money for it, or
No,
they're
it's
used to the content. Yeah.
it's definitely true. I mean, I think it's cathartic to be able to relate with the people around you. I think in almost any situation. I mean, like just speaking from experience, when there were lots of weeks where I was working 80 plus hours a week. And it gets difficult, but there's comfort knowing that the people that you are surrounded with are also going through the same thing. And I think it's a
Hmm.
similar situation where like with founders or even just like within any NFT community. And that's why I think that that point really translates well to the Web3 space, is because there's so much emphasis on community. I think
Yeah.
that, you know, it's kind of a unique situation where people are all able to relate because they own the same thing, or in the founder's case they've gone through the same thing. And so creating safe spaces like that, where as degenerate as some discords can become, I think that it's a good place to feel like what you're saying is resonating with the people that you're saying it to, and that you have
Yeah.
a point of relativity, like some sort of anchor that you guys can all relate on. I mean, we're seeing that even just in the Shogun War Discord, right? Like, there's
Hmm.
there's so many people. Like, I mean, not to get too specific, but there's just a lot that goes on in the Shogun War Discord, where sometimes someone is saying like that they're going through X, Y, Z, and it's kind of funny because like you'd think like this is the last thing that we'd be talking about in a GameFi Discord, and then people just like actually try to make you feel better. And it's like I think that a piece of that is just the fact that like we're a community, and like we have at least one thing in common. But if you're in the Web3 space with other people, even if it's not the same project, I'm sure that you have more than just one thing in common.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's kind of like how toxic other game communities get, like gaming communities get. Like, that's how like wholesome the Discord is, or the NFT space kind of is, or can be at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Like some people get in there and they really just like they connect with other people. It's kind of crazy. But I do think that's like the hidden use case, or maybe not so hidden, but like I think that's the highest best use case for NFTs. Really, is that like getting that connection, but without having to like have gone to the same school, or go to the same whatever, like sandwich place or country club or whatever it is, like be on their same like block or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's just that connection, right?
You're not walking into a coffee shop and seeing someone with the same Letterman jacket on, but like in a sense, you kind of
Hmm.
are, because like you walk into the Discord, so to speak, and you know that everyone else there is there for the same reason. I mean, the reasons obviously
Yeah.
differ from person to person, but you know, you'd like to think, we'd like to think at least, that everyone that's in that Discord is there because they want to see this thing grow.
I mean, our one is perfect and there's no problems at all. But everybody else's, I mean, maybe there's some people that.
Yeah, exactly. Ours is the best, and I don't know why anyone else would be in any other
Yeah,
project. So
yeah, of
I'm glad
course,
that yeah, shameless plug.
shameless. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, I mean, I think it's something like when if you go, well, like you go to high school and you have your buddies and you have all your friends there, everybody has that in common that they went to whatever XYZ high school. You
Mhm.
didn't like everybody maybe, but like you did find best friends for life or real deep connections there as well. So I think
Exactly,
that's
and
kind of
that's an
similar.
important point. It's not even about
Hmm.
finding. It's not even about resonating with the entire community, although there's comfort there. It's even just like finding one person that you can resonate with. And like,
Yeah.
from the millions and millions of people that are in the Web3 space, like you don't have to connect with every single one, but like just finding one person that relates to you, I think is enough for it to be cathartic. And
Yeah.
it really narrows down all of the
The
likelihood of
possibilities
you,
and
yeah, the
stuff.
the
Yeah.
possibilities of you having something in common when you're invested in the same thing.
For sure, because I think people like do we we all like bag on it's like we're in it for the art, or if you're a bag holder and DeFi in it for the tech and stuff like that. But like
Yeah.
there is some of that where you like the art kind of resonates with you, or something about the project resonates with you that
Mhm.
if there's other people that are like you, they'll see the same thing. Like it'll also
Yeah,
resonate
and
with them
just
as
and
well.
further accentuated by the fact that, like, I mean, we see it in Shogun War now, right? Like,
Hmm.
there's complexity to the game, and so people are working together to try to strategize. I mean, even just having like two clans, but on top of that, having like multiple families, you're seeing a
Yeah.
lot of people getting together and trying to strategize like how best to work the game, play the game. And I
Hmm.
think that in itself is obviously accentuating like any connection you have with the community because you're working together. It's collaborative, which I think is
Yeah.
important too.
And the PvP aspect of it too, kind of what makes Shogun War a bit different than a lot of other projects is like I think a lot of projects are scared to make that jump from like PvE games where
Hmm.
like we're working together and then we're really going into a PvP, like a one side has to lose for the other side to win. Um because then it really consolidates like your player base into two, three, however many camps you have.
Hmm.
But it also gets them closer together, right? Like pressure brings people closer together.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And there's a lot
yeah,
of shit talking. It's not a
yeah.
perfect community. We do shit talk each other quite a bit. It's Reds versus Blues,
Mhm.
Crips versus Bloods. Um,
Hojo versus Tokugawa.
Yeah, but at least like there's pressure to get closer to the people in your clan, rather than it just kind of being like, you know, I'm. I think a lot of projects in the space are it's kind of just you playing with your like you you playing with yourself.
It's just you
It's kind of
playing with
just you.
yourself
It's
and
kind
these
of just
others.
you playing with yourself. Yeah.
Pretty
No, I
much.
mean it's just kind of you playing by yourself, trying to monetize
Why we
whatever
love
you.
NFTs,
Yeah, exactly. You get to play with yourself as much as you want. It's not
Get
like
paid
the
to play
stock
with yourself.
market. Yeah, it's
Walk to
uh,
earn, play with
ex-
yourself to earn. We know
yeah.
it. It's the
Play with
next.
yourself to
It's the next
earn. Oh
horizon.
shit, we
Yeah.
need to coin that, monetize it.
Yeah.
Oh
Unrelated
man, I'm
news.
sure
We
we're
have to
getting a
stop
lot
the
of
podcast and get out there.
one of our millions of listeners that has a dirty mind. They're getting a little
It's
they're
pretty
getting a
much
little
going to be
excited.
every listener we get, really. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
exactly.
all
All
of
the
our listeners
degens are
will be
on
like
here.
that.
True enough. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean, I think just the pressure to work together, even
Hmm.
though you're working against a whole nother half, I think is naturally going to bring people closer together, and it makes the project stronger too. So it's like two birds, one stone kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really interesting to see. I'm curious to see how it kind of all plays out. But it is like, one of the challenges we were looking at with like, okay, well, if you have a gated Discord channel, like for you have to own this NFT, like a
Hmm.
whatever the red Ronin or red Shogun. Well, if you own a red Shogun and a blue Shogun, then you can get into both channels, and they're not really then gated so much, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of a problem that we ran into, but I think the solution really was generated by the community where when some community member wanted to step up and they're like, hey, can I be a mod for just a specific channel? And that reminded me of like, if you have a small town and somebody comes into town, everybody knows that they don't live there. So they're like on guard or looking out, and so they kind of know who's there. And that's how you can kind of keep the PvP aspect, like the info PvP aspect in the game just by community self-policing.
Definitely. And to bring that point back to like founders, I think that,
Mm-hmm.
like we were saying kind of at the start of our long tangential spiel, I think,
We got through one point. We're
yeah, we
like
got through
one
one
point. This is
point.
gonna be a 9-hour podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, guys. Get your sleeping bags ready, and I hope you drank
Yeah.
lots of coffee. No, but I mean, to bring it back to the point of founders, like they're going through the same thing, right? I mean, it's not the
Yeah.
same project, it's not the same team, obviously, but they have the same stresses. And I think being
Mm-hmm.
able to relate with other founders is important because the Web3 space, as much as I think that there's tons and tons of pros that outweigh cons, I think
Mm-hmm.
one of the cons to the Web3 space is now you have this distance, whether it's physical obviously for most people, but it's also like there's a distance of identity. And I think kind of going into what I'm going to talk about after this, I think there's a lot of pros to the pseudonymous space, but I think that one of the cons is that you don't get the visible point of like relativity. Like it's hard for you to see that other people are going through the same thing when you're pseudonymous, when you are not part of a community, when you
Yeah.
are not working next to someone at a desk. And so I think creating these like sorts of communities where other founders can kind of come together and connect and get comfortable, I think it's important because without those sorts of same thing, even though they might recognize it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it just being, like working in Web3 kind of puts you on a particular team anyways, like Team
Mhm.
Web3. So it
Yeah,
is kind of
exactly.
good. Yeah, like you can kind of just support each other and, that kind of stuff. Like, but I do feel like that, it's a kind of a larger movement of like this is where society and culture and all this kind of stuff is kind of heading.
Hmm.
With the invent of the internet and all this kind of stuff. Like, I feel like this is just like apex internet. Like
Yeah,
you used to
yeah,
play video
yeah,
games with friends, right? You have like a guy that you're like, I don't even know where this guy lives, like, but
yeah, exactly.
he's chill. We just play video, like we play, CS:GO or something together. Like, it's like so you can do stuff like where this is then like, oh, I don't know, this guy, but he has a bored ape or he has a shogi and there's a shogun. So I already like him a little bit. He already has good taste. So,
Yeah,
then you
obviously has
find other
good
stuff.
taste.
Yeah, obviously he has a great investing mindset, like the next Warren Buffett NFT, Warren Buffett of
Yeah,
NFTs.
you could just hear the head getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like he's amazing, so I'm amazing. It kind of flows back and forth.
Transitive property. If A equals B and B equals C, then A must equal C, right? I must be the
Exactly.
best.
Exactly. That's why everybody wants the shoes that LeBron uses or the whatever that
Yeah, because
whatever
now they can
celebrity
dunk.
uses. Yeah, exactly. If you couldn't dunk before, you just throw on the shoes and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's like Mike.
Exactly. Well, so the second real big takeaway from that article was um, basically the oxygen mask rule. So what that means is like you have to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And I know a lot of people think that's like really, people kind of get struck as that's very selfish right off the bat, but that's literally what they tell you on an airplane if it's going down, to put on your oxygen mask first so that you don't pass out while you're trying to take care of others. Like that's where that comes from for people that might be triggered by that.
Yeah, and it's an important point because how can you take care of someone? I mean, even just bringing it back to the airplane analogy, like how
Hmm.
can you take care of someone else if you haven't taken care of yourself? How can you put that oxygen mask on someone else if you're passed out? You physically can't. I mean, it's the same. Like a lot of these real life situations do translate back into Web3 because again, like there's a
Yeah.
real person behind the keyboard. So it's like you do have to take care of your own stress before you can take care of someone else's, because I think a lot of being able to empathize with another person is kind of being in that right headspace in the first place, and then being able
Yeah.
to think of someone else like in their shoes, think of what they're going through and helping them. Like first you got to help yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people that are like full like in Web3 or just really or even just like really busy too with NFTs, you work and then you do NFTs at night or you do like DeFi at night or whatever it is, like like it does take a real physical toll on you, physically,
Mhm.
mentally, especially with the cyclical nature. Like, but physically, a lot of stuff, like I always recommend like getting outside, get some exercise, make sure you're not eating, DoorDash all the time. It's only Uber Eats, like that kind of stuff will take care of you.
Only Postmates.
Yeah, only
So
Postmates,
so I
Postmates
guess
Maxis.
turning that one back on you,
Yeah.
Matthias, what do you do to take care of your own stress? I guess first of all, like, would you say that it's been pretty stressful working on Shogun War? And if so, like, what have you done to kind of de-stress?
I think for me, it's not. I mean, there is the old adage, like if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Like I really do. I chose to work on this project, so it's kind of nice when you really choose to do things that
Hmm.
it makes it less stressful. Of course, everybody, when you start up a company or something, it's like, oh yeah, you're choosing to do it, but it doesn't make it like less stressful. But for me, I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but I really enjoy it. Just because it's what I like doing. I like getting in the community and, building stuff and thinking about things like how do we make it better for the community? How do we reach out? How do we expand things? But that said, I make sure I get out every day. I have a home gym, so I don't have to go very far. Just so there's less excuses.
Yeah.
Not that it always gets used, but there's still good excuses. So
Yeah, he's talking about going outside, but he's literally brought the real world into his own house.
Yeah, limiting any excuse to actually get outside, and then limit the excuses to then stay inside because that's where the home gym is. This is like a yin and yang style
Built the gym
of
inside, put
excuses.
a cafe in here so I don't have to go out and get coffee. I have a
I
chef.
literally would.
She makes me
If my
food.
wife would let me, I would.
I love
Oh,
that.
good. But yeah, so what do you do to kind of keep the stress away and make sure everything's stay nice and healthy?
Yeah, so I guess for me, like, okay, like coming from, I would go back to working for Big Four because really the stress
Hmm.
levels where I've been working now aren't as crazy. I mean, I
Just feels like less stress comparatively.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's not as bad comparatively, not at all. And I can agree with you definitely on the working in Web3 space because I don't think we really talked about how we met, but
Hmm.
basically what happened was Matthias and Ollie and Raijin,
Right, Jen.
we'll
Mhm.
say, they all were working together and they built obviously Shogun War and they had their team and whatnot. And I got in kind of, I wouldn't say I was like super early in, but I got in on the whitelist through small bodies. And I remember like reading their first white paper and saying like, oh wow, like I think that this idea is really cool. Like I hadn't really heard their voices yet. Like I hadn't listened to any of the AMAs yet. I could tell that they were pretty collaborative. I could tell that they were pretty engaged in the community because they were all like constantly popping up in the Discord. And I already liked that about them. But I read the white paper and I was like, I really like this idea. I like the project. I think it's pretty cool. I had already had some exposure for play to earn games and hadn't seen anything that's PvP esque. Um, and didn't talk about this much, but like I have a obviously I have my accounting and finance background, but I also read pretty actively, and I love to write, and I've written since I was a wee little lad. Um, and so I kind of try. I just popped in and asked Ollie like, "Hey man, like I love to write. I think I'm good at it. As you can tell, I have a pretty big head now. I think I'm good at it. Like I'd love to help you guys out wherever I can." And he kind of pointed me towards Matthias and Rajan. And I reached out to both of them, and they got me started on some work. I think they liked what I had done, and I told Rajan that I had the accounting finance background. He was like, "Well, like we're writing the tokenomics white paper. Like it'd be great to get a second pair of eyes. Like maybe you can help out here and there." Kind of gave me a prompt, worked on it, liked it, and then just ended up helping them with the entire tokenomics white paper, which we released I think 2 days ago. Is it yesterday or 2 days ago? I think it was 2 days ago. Um,
Yeah.
and it was just like such a great experience being able to talk to both of them because like I think we vibed well. Like Matthias and I, even like Raj and me and Ollie, like we all get along pretty well, I think. And it's fun just shooting the shit and chopping it up with all of them. And so I mean that's kind of how we met. And then, just kind of through Shogun War, we're like, oh, we should do a podcast. I think like we both have fun talking to each other and talking about shit. Like why not actually try to make something with it?
Yeah, after
Um,
like hours of talking and stuff like that, like together, we're
yeah.
like, damn, we should probably just record this and then
Yeah,
post it so people
exactly.
like know Shogun like is legit and we actually like we have deep thinkers, and like we're not just like, yeah, it's like a samurai PFP, and you
Yeah.
do cool shit with it, like. But yeah,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
just
it's
to
fun.
get back to, where I was headed with that, like, I actually enjoy working with you guys. Like, it is, I clock out of my normie job and then I like help out with Shogun War, and it is really enjoyable. So it doesn't bring me a lot of stress. I think the stress is like not enough hours in the day, really. Um,
Yeah.
and then, but for the normie job, I think like the best de-stressors for me are like making plans constantly, like trying to say like, like this weekend we're going to do this, next weekend we're going to do that, and then like actually doing them, because it gives you something to look forward to, I think, all week. So even
Hmm.
though like you kind of you're there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you're going through it, you're stressed out, but you know that in X amount of days you're going to be doing something fun and enjoying yourself. And then obviously like the standard, go outside, take a walk, drink some coffee, drink some water.
Touch grass.
Yeah, touch
The classic.
grass.
All the
Touch
kids like to
grass, yeah.
say.
Roll around in the grass a little bit,
Yeah.
maybe hug a tree. I don't know.
And some people are saying that like you're like energetically connected to the earth and shit, and like you gotta
Yeah, that's why I
like
walk
put your
around
feet on
barefoot
the
everywhere.
grass. Like, yeah, I mean, I do the same thing. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's gonna come back around. People are gonna like it. It's gonna
I
be
was
cool
barefoot
again.
and my girlfriend kicked me out of the car the other day. She was like, "You gotta walk home," and I just started walking home, and then she's like, "I'm just kidding." She picked me up, but I don't know.
You're
I
like, nah,
think
I'm
that
walking.
like 30 seconds that I was on the concrete with my feet, I really felt connected to Mother Earth.
Yeah, you're like Mother Gaia in this concrete.
Yeah, exactly. Mother Earth,
But
what do you know about Web3?
yeah, exactly. But I think this is, I mean, it's good. Like if people really want to dive in, I do think that, everybody does, there's always stress, but I think there's always something to be stressed about. It's kind of like an internal thing. Like people
Mhm.
kind of deal with stress differently, but I think as long as you're like kind of choosing it's way less stressful than people imagine. And I think that the real danger is not doing something that you really like, or that you really enjoy, like, and just like never doing that. I think is worse. It should be more of a motivator for people than like, oh well, what if it doesn't work out? Like, there's always something to do. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm like, I'm not that worried about
Yeah,
it.
and not to like take this point too far, because again, we've only got through the second point. So like Matthias was
We're
saying,
gonna
this
have
is
to
a
speed run the
9 hour
rest of the
podcast.
points.
Exactly. We're just gonna go super quick. I'm gonna sound like I'm rapping.
Yeah.
Um, no, but I mean, just to bring it back to Web3, I mean, that's the other thing that I think is like such a big advantage to Web3. And it kind of bleeds into the article I'm going to be talking about, but just this ability to disassociate as much as you want from reality, what you actually do, and put your time into something like on the creative side. I mean, I think it also translates to being the user, the end user, but on the creative side, it's this ability to like do something that you're passionate about, and like, other people get to put their like they actually read it, they actually look at it, they look at your work. And like I work in finance, but what I do for Shogun War is mostly writing, and writing is what I'm passionate about. I think I'm pretty good at the finance and accounting side too, but like I get to write and people actually read it and they comment and they tell me what they think about it. And that hasn't really been something that I've been able to do in the past, because there's so many hoops to jump through if you actually want to publish work. And
Hmm.
so I think it's
Which
given
is
me an
like the awesome.
opportunity.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's just the awesome thing about like NFTs and the whole Web3 space. It's just like there's such a low barrier to entry for any creative person that
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
you could write something. Like I know, I think Lit was a project that basically, there's a guy, he wrote the book, The Pickup Artist. I think it was what it was.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Neil,
yeah.
I
Neil,
forget what his name.
Neil,
I want to say Neil Diamond, but I'm pretty sure that's not
Gaiman,
it.
Gaiman,
Strauss. Strauss. I think it's Neil Strauss, I
Neil
think.
Strauss.
Or
Oh man,
Strauss,
we're
yeah,
gonna have
that's
to
what it
edit
is.
this out.
Yeah.
Just
Like Neil
completely.
Diamond. I'm like, definitely not
Neil,
him.
is it Neil Rolling?
Yeah, we're like, I definitely, you know what? I'm looking it up. Fuck it. It's our podcast. We can do what we want here.
Yeah,
I think it's
exactly.
Neil Strauss. Yeah, Neil Strauss, bald guy. Basically, he wrote a bunch of different stuff, but he has a really weird one that where he became like he went under these guys' wings as a pickup artist in LA. Like, sounds dumb, but it's like it's a little dumb, but it is like an actual thing, and it was interesting to read. I read it. I was like, oh, this is kind of like, not every day you get something like this. But
Yeah,
he
exactly.
did one. Yeah, that's actually he wrote a book, and then the owners of the NFT or owner of the NFT gets the rights to the book.
No
Like they
way.
get the ROI, they get everything on it. Um, and yeah, it's kind of wild. Project is I think called Lit. I don't own it, no endorsements or anything like that. But yeah, it seemed pretty cool. So there's a low barrier to entry for this kind of stuff. People can jump in. Hey, look at us. We shouldn't even be doing a podcast, but we are.
Yeah, exactly. Just two degens just not even making it past their first article in the first 30 minutes.
No, we're like,
Um,
yeah, well, we have enough to talk about, and it's like 30 minutes in on point two. Like, all right, well,
this is giving
but
us a
yeah.
sense of like how many articles we can jam into the podcast, though, because originally I think Matthias and I both said three each, but it's looking
Mhm.
like two each might be a little bit better.
Yeah, and I was even thinking like, man, maybe we do like 5 or 6, and we just like whatever. But I don't know how many. I mean, we could just go
We,
Joe Rogan style, just
yeah,
like
we could.
3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. We could always speed run, like, not sorry, not today.
Oh, that's all good.
We could always speed run in the future other podcasts, like just make it a little bit quicker points and whatnot. But I think we're testing it out with this first one, and
Yeah,
I've had
I think
fun
it's
so
fine.
far, and I think as long as you guys are getting some content and enjoying listening, then like I don't really care how many articles we go through. But
Yeah, exactly.
it would be cool to see what this podcast looks like even 2-3 episodes from now.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, I think it's gonna be fun. I will definitely get better and better at this, but I think as long as we always have fun, it's always good. I'll finish up that last point is take vacations, recharge. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. I mean, the only kind of fun, the good thing I actually took away at this last point was, um, if you can take vacations knowing that your people, like any employees that are underneath you or cooperators or collaborators, are going to do a good job. The way you can do that is basically by setting clear goals, having timelines, making sure that they understand what's needed and wanted from them. So like that's more of like a business thing, but that is pretty key still to be able to take vacations. The only way you're going to be able to take a vacation is if your people know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's getting that spot where it's a well greased machine, and it can operate on its own when you're not around.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, cool. What was the article that you had?
Anata NFT, and I think, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I hope I'm not
Mm,
butchering it. It is a pretty cool project. What it is so I guess first of all, the NFT is dropping. It's fair launching on MetaDrop, which is another NFT launchpad. Fair launch, for those of you who don't know, at least in this context, what they're doing is they're doing no whitelist, no Discord grinding, and basically it's an auction. There's a 2,000 supply. I think 19, 20 of them are going to the public. The other 80 are just horrible math. I go 18. The other 80 are going to the team and contributors, as well as partnerships. But essentially, the top 19, 1,920 bids on the NFT will be the people that actually get the NFT, and the 1,920 out of those 1,920 winning bids, whatever the lowest bid is what everyone will have to pay. Don't
mm.
know if I did a great job of articulating that, but hopefully that
No, it
made
totally
sense.
makes sense. Like, I think it's a kind of a beefier subject, but we could always like kind of riff on that at least. Like
Yeah,
how do you do something fair, like fair drop styles? Like, there's we went through this with ours, like whitelist. There's but then people are like, oh well, there's whitelist grinding, and that's not really fair. And it's like, okay, well, it's definitely a really hard problem. I don't know that anybody has it like 100% solved. I don't think there's any
yeah, because it's
scenario
always
where
like
like,
you and like 15 other people going up against
yeah.
2,000 bots.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know if anybody has like 100% solution where everybody's happy, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like anything. Even like bringing it back to the founders, like
Hmm.
there's never going to be one solution for anyone. One solution for everyone. I think there's always going to be one solution for one person, and hopefully a solution for the majority. But there's always going to be people that are not happy with whatever
Right. I mean, if
process
you
you
have
use.
scarcity on something, there's no way that it intrinsically cannot be for everyone. I mean,
Yeah,
and then people are like, "Oh, it didn't sell out. It's trash." Like, and then like,
yeah, and not to get
yeah,
philosophical, but like for something to have value, someone has to lose. That's just the way it is,
right.
the way the world works. Like, I mean, it's the same with
Supply and
like,
demand.
yeah, exactly. It's the same with like play to earn, right? Like, you
Hmm.
might be doing well, but if you're doing well, I mean, someone else isn't. And I mean, even like from person to person, like you're gonna lose some, you're gonna win some. It's like
Yeah,
Shogun War.
exactly.
You're not going to beat that dungeon 10 times out of 10.
That's why we leaned into it because people are scared of it because of the sometimes the blowback on like community or something like that, and not that we don't care what the community thinks, But the thing is, like, they're basically trusting us to make a good game. Like, if you imagine if you played literally any other video game, like let's say Counter Strike, but you don't die,
Yeah,
there's
it's
no game.
exactly. There's no
Like,
game there. There has to be a win or
yeah,
a loss. That's the only thing that's what makes a game a game.
right. Like World of
Yeah.
Warcraft, and you get the best items off the bat, and you don't have to grind for anything.
Yeah,
And
even the
like,
most
okay,
even the most like arcade games like chess, like there's got to be a
yeah,
winner or loser.
we just always
It's
tie chess, but
yeah,
you always tie. Like
chess, but the
nobody
game
wants to
never
play that.
ends. Yeah,
Yeah,
the second you
exactly.
sit down, you're never leaving.
Yeah. So it's like pointless for the so the games inherently have this like win and loss like dynamic to them. So people get a little weird with it because
Hmm.
it's like attached to money, but you attach money to anything you want. Like I mean, you give a degen anything to gamble on, they'll gamble on it, you know.
Exactly. But yeah, bringing it back to Anata. So what it is it's a set of 1,920 public NFTs that are, as in the other 80 are going to the team, like I mentioned,
Mhm.
that are live 2D VTuber animated avatars. And for anyone that doesn't know what VTubing is, I didn't know what VTubing was before reading this. I'd seen it in movies, but what it's short for is virtual YouTubing. It sounds a little bit redundant because YouTube's already virtual, but it's
Double virtual,
essentially
Inception level
yeah,
virtual.
exactly double virtual. There's two layers. And it's in essence it's replacing the webcam view with an animated motion capture controlled avatar. Think like Snapchat or Instagram where you can kind of, or even just like in iMessage, how you can paste like an emoji over your face, and whenever you smile, the emoji smiles. Whenever you move, the
Hmm.
emoji moves. Apparently, from what I've read, the technology is pretty high end. Like they've done a lot of work on this, and so it does a really good job of instantaneous motion capture. So it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I think it's really big, and what I read and from our research, I kind of gleaned that it's getting pretty big in Japan,
Hmm.
which is not surprising at all because animation is huge in Japan.
Yeah, that kind of
Huge,
stuff is popular there. Like, I
yeah,
mean,
definitely.
they're much more on the cutting edge for like, not using your face or
Yeah, well, that's like that's a
filtering.
whole other discussion too. Like I could talk about
Yeah.
Japan, the culture, the work culture in Japan is such that like I think people need an escape. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, and I think
Yeah.
that it's one form of escape is being able to have a pseudonymous identity, like another identity that no one knows who the person behind the camera is.
Yeah. I know. Maybe we
Um,
should do that for like a next podcast too, because I've been to Japan about 8 times.
I've been
And I
twice.
mean,
I
I love
love it.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
it's amazing. So maybe we can do
Kyoto,
that.
Kyoto and Tokyo are like two of my favorite places
Oh
that I've
yeah,
traveled to, and
man.
I'm an avid traveler. I love to travel.
Yeah, me and my wife actually had a trip planned to Japan like right before COVID happened, and then it was like actually in like November, and then we had something happen. And we're like, ah, shit, we can't go now, or we shouldn't go, we shouldn't leave yet. And then we're like, we'll just push it out to like March, cherry blossom season. And March rolled around, and it's like, oh, there's a little case of some coughs going on out of
Yeah.
China. Like that should blow over pretty soon, and then it didn't. So
Yeah, let's just move it back 2 weeks.
yeah, we're like, we'll just push it back. Yeah, we'll go back and we'll go in like like a couple months or something once it comes down. And
Yeah, the
yeah, so
common
we're
COVID
still on
story.
that.
I mean, I was actually in the same exact boat, and actually, like even now, my girlfriend and I are kind of eyeing it because we want to do like a Japan/Korea trip,
Mm.
and it's just been tough because the COVID restrictions there are pretty high.
Yeah, I think Japan, you're still not allowed to come in unless it's for like work or student
Student
or
visa,
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
student visa. So
But
yeah, I was
yeah,
telling
getting
my wife that too. I was like, well, can we just be students? We'll just
yeah, just
we'll just
enroll in
get in.
college
Like
so
it
you can
takes
go to
something.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Fail all our classes. I don't care. Like just like whatever. Fine by
What
me.
if you like, just found the greatest workaround. It's like all we have to
Yeah.
do is fill out FAFSA, enroll in a
Yeah.
random university.
Just gonna cost us $30,000
Yeah.
just to get in, and then it was like, she's like,
Yeah,
that's a bad idea. Damn.
You're like,
Okay.
fuck. All right, next thing.
That's a soft no.
Yeah, so
Uh,
maybe is that a maybe?
yeah, that's a maybe. We'll come back to it. It's definitely for sure. But I think in Japan, NFTs are popping off pretty recently. There's been Azuki's blown up.
Yeah, it seems like
Kiwami.
the anime esque NFTs are gaining a lot of traction, and this
Yeah,
kind of
like
takes that
Midnight
to a
Breeze too.
yeah, and this kind of takes it to another level because it's like 3D
Yeah.
avatars, but they all have this like sort of cyberpunk vibe to them. They have like futuristic clothes, tails. I mean, you guys should definitely check it out. It's pretty cool. But anyways, it fits into the Web3 mold, well, I mean, we've talked about this might be the 8th time that I've said pseudonymous on the podcast, but we've talked about this sort of that sort of nature. And I think there's kind of two tranches to it. One, it's an NFT. So obviously you innately have this sort of disconnection from, it's an NFT avatar, a PFP. I mean, in this instance, it's not a PFP, but think PFPs when you think like disconnect, like how many Web3 influencers, they'd probably hate that I said that I called them that, but like how many Web3 influencers do you know that like use their actual headshot? And then,
It's kind of weird at this point to do that,
yeah,
like to use your
exactly.
headshot. Like it's like
Exactly.
boomers
I
do
mean,
it
it's like
only.
even
Like
like you and I were talking about, like, do we want to dox or not? Like, I mean, it's
yeah,
just it's that sort of like you want to fit into the Web3 mold as best you can, like, perfect fit. And number two is it essentially lets you run an anonymous identity with one of their unique avatars. And I say unique, and I mean it because it's not generative like Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's actually, they have a team of artists that use some of the same traits, but every single one of their avatars is very unique. Like
yeah, I had heard about it.
skinny white guys, like, there's a lot of there's a lot of different avatars across the board. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
They're anime-esque, like I was saying, which I think is going to be huge for the Japanese Web3 audience. And then anime is huge here as well. I mean, I'm a huge anime guy. I watch tons of anime.
I think it's
Um,
taken off more than it has before. Sorry, I jumped in last time because I think it cut out a little bit, but that's
oh, did I cut
but
out?
yeah,
Maybe I'm just
yeah,
getting
just
really
for a second,
passionate and
just so
starting
nobody
to.
thinks I'm
I'm
just
actually on the other
running.
side of the room, just yelling because I'm so passionate about this.
It makes it
No,
easy.
but I think they have some good things going for them.
Yeah.
I have 3 points that I kind of listed off. I'll try to get through them quick because I know we're running out of time. But
Yeah.
number one, I think VTubing, obviously, I think that it's going to grow in parallel with the growth of Web3. I've already talked a little bit about that,
hmm
like how the two things kind of coincide. There's a lot of similarities, especially within the DeFi pseudonymous space. There's number nine.
Well, I think it too, like people are kind of getting more and more used to it as
Mhm.
well. Like they're more okay with it's more like culturally acceptable. One to watch anime and like read manga and whatever, like, and then
Yeah.
also to then not show your real face publicly as well. Like it feels like it's, you
Yeah,
know,
and like a lot of quote unquote boomers will say,
mhm.
kids these days will never have the face to face time they need, whatever, blah blah blah. But
Yeah,
in reality, and I think that there's some truth to that too, obviously, but in reality, I
yeah.
think we've actually seen a lot of confidence and reassurance built through social media and Web3. I mean, like I was saying before, like I haven't had the confidence to publish anything that I write, but through like this opportunity at Shogun War, I've actually been able to write and quote unquote publish in italics
hmm
some of the work. And it does give you some confidence. It does give you some reassurance that what you're doing is actually good.
Yeah, and
Obviously, it
lots of
comes with,
people read it too.
yeah, exactly.
you know,
Yeah, and it
yeah.
comes with its baggage. But if you can be reassured that what you do is loved by someone, I think that translates well to the real world, and it kind of injects a little bit of confidence in your IRL.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was gonna say too, if we run over in time or whatever, we can always chop this up and make it a one, two parts, or use it for something else too. Just
Sure enough,
or we can
yeah.
release it all at once, and people can stop tuning in whenever they're like, all right, I'm done with this. But I mean, because I think a lot of these concepts are pretty kind of deep for even for the for our first episode. We're hitting
Yeah.
hitting all the deep concepts, but like I think people should think of it like, what if you could filter out like everybody you really didn't want to, like wouldn't have a good experience meeting in real life. You could
Hmm.
filter that out beforehand so that like there's nothing stopping from people from meeting online first, in Discord, in Twitter, whatever it is, totally anonymous or pseudonymous, and then going, hey man, or hey, that person, hey, anime profile picture person, like, I
Exactly.
really,
Hey, robot
I'm going
cowboy.
to, yeah, exactly, like robot cowboy, I'm going to, crypto Miami, like, are you gonna go as well? And they're like, yeah, I'll see you there or whatever. You see that with a lot of those big Twitter accounts too, that some are anonymous or pseudonymous, like,
Hmm.
where they'll meet up, like they'll meet each other, but they're just not like publicly known.
Exactly,
So
exactly. No,
yeah,
and that's the point that we're both hitting on there is like it does it has a lot of parallels, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for symbiotic growth.
yeah.
And
I
then
think people are underestimating how nice it is that you don't have to meet people you don't really want to, like being able to filter out like the bad vibes is pretty nice. Like that's a boomers wouldn't see that, but that's the plus side of not having to meet
Yeah,
every
100%. Yeah,
person, you know?
definitely. Yeah. No, I agree. And then, second thing and third thing, which I think they do coincide a bit, but the second thing is, does VTubing have a legitimate accessible platform? I
Mhm.
don't know all the ins and outs, but it sounds from what I've read, it sounds like VTubing is actually like pretty arduous, and it takes the proper software and hardware to do. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be this moat of expenses and time. But the Anata NFTs they're on Ethereum, and they're through this browser extension called Hologram, and they
Hmm.
can use their avatar. It accesses their wallet and it lets them use their avatar in any application that uses a webcam, which lets them integrate like any recording with streaming software and video sharing platforms like
Hmm.
YouTube, TikTok, etc. So you don't need to jump through all these hoops to have the proper software and hardware to actually record. So
Yeah.
I think the moat gets a lot smaller with that. So they do have a lot of things working for them. And then the third thing is community. I think like when you talk about any project, and I popped in their Discord, checked in on their general chat, like looked at their roadmap, some other stuff, and they have a pretty active community. They plan on setting
Yeah.
aside 50% of their ETH from the fair launch for their treasury, which will be used via governance. Um, and my assumption is that the NFTs will double as governance tokens, and so I think that's one pretty big opportunity for a lot of community interaction. Because if you just release a VTubing avatar, I think that after everyone buys it, it's just like, all right, go your separate ways. But it seems like
Mhm.
there's a lot of opportunity for the continuance of the project and some growth within.
Yeah, I mean this one seems like one of those NFT projects that is actually pushing the boundaries. It's not just like a PFP. It's not just like a whatever kind of cash grab
Exactly.
kind of thing. Like yeah, like this is like new tech that they're actually tying stuff in together with this. Like
Hmm.
it's actually really nice to see. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try and bid like hey, unless they're
Yeah.
like
Good.
10 ETH or some shit.
Yeah, and even if whoever's out there listening, Gary V, I'm talking to you. Um,
Yeah, Gary.
Even if you're not gonna go out and buy one or auction on their bid, or bid at their auction. I don't know why I'm getting my words all mixed up. Even if you're not gonna auction,
If you're gonna
sorry, one
bid on
second.
auctions that
Yeah,
are
yeah, I can't
bids,
speak.
yeah, it's all good. I
That
mean,
and
I
the
think
dog is trying to put a donut in my hand right now. So I'm like,
like perfect
trying to
timing. It
push
seems
off.
like you're
Yeah,
not very busy.
thank you. Yeah, I know
Let me
you're
give
really
you a
passionate
donut.
about Gary V dog.
I heard Gary V, so I came over.
Yeah. Hello. Would you like to play? She was like sleeping under their bed too, and then I heard it, like she's just big enough to fit under, like just small enough to fit under the bed, but big enough where
Yeah,
like it's a really difficult for her to get out from under it. And so
yeah.
like whenever she like hears me, she comes out from under the bed, and I can just hear the bed shaking. And every time I'm like, you freaking dog. But anyways, yeah. I mean,
It's pretty good.
I think it's really cool. Go give it a look. It's a cool project. I mean, maybe in the future, even we could get the founder seems like a cool guy. I was reading a Medium article, and he did an interview with them. So you never know who's going to end up on this podcast.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're reaching out to anybody. So if anybody does have any, anyone they want to see on the podcast, feel free to like throw, jump in my DMs on Discord or Twitter. Discord is I'm right Fujin on Shogun Wars, and then Crypto Long Game on Twitter. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I think I reached out to, I think the Twitter handle is like Big D Senpai or something like
It
that
is
is,
Big D
well, I guess,
Senpai.
yeah. Yeah, I reached out to him to try and get him, talk to him, but he's pretty busy and with the launch of
Yeah, the fair launch
Anata,
happening
so
tomorrow.
yeah,
He's
so
probably
he's
not
not
checking his
really
DMs right now.
responding. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah, I don't know. He's probably just ghosting me. What the fuck? But no, I mean it would be awesome because it's really pushing the limits on like what can be done with NFTs. Like
Hmm.
it's really like it's really cool to see stuff that's really going to be different than like because it's so easy to just roll some copy out or left facing punks or whatever like right facing punks like you can just do like whatever kind of stuff like um but it's just like we need to push the space. It's not going to get further if we don't actually just like try shit out.
Exactly. I mean, it's like it really is like anything. I mean, that's one of, I was talking to a buddy the other day about it, and like Web3 is like this, and the metaverse is like this whole other opportunity for every business that's ever existed in reality to inject itself into the metaverse, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool. And so there's, you see a lot of parallels in you know, the corporate space, the Web2 space, and the Web3 space. You see a lot of parallels with like this idea of like you kind of have to do something outside of the box that no one's done before for something to reach gargantuan levels. And I think
Yeah.
it's the same thing with like any project in the NFT space. Like if you're just another, if you're just any other anime PFP, like right now you might benefit off of a lot of the traction that it's getting, but like, you know, down the line when that market's saturated, I think it's going to be a lot harder for you to grow. You got to do something that differentiates yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was part of my thesis for the Zukis was basically like they are the, the anime picture anime PFP. Like, so if there's one that really pops off or you see a lot of it kind of saturating, people are really going to like, new people are going to be brought in, but they're probably going to be going to more blue chippy type projects like Azuki's and, well, whoever kind of takes second place on that one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
So,
really cool ones. I mean, it really appeals to my like my just general love for anime. So like, you know, we were talking earlier about like this whole concept that a lot of people are pushing for NFTs to go back to the art, which we
mhm.
haven't. That could be another discussion that Matthias and I talk about for hours because we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just like, wow, I really like this art. I'm just gonna buy it. You know what I mean? Like it does definitely play. It definitely does play into it. Like obviously, you want to look at the community, you want to look at the project, but the art itself is always important too.
Yeah, I mean, I do think we were talking about this before and too, and I was gonna say like we should. That's what we were talking about, and we're like we should just get on the pod and actually get it, on the record publicly. But I do think, as you can kind of, there's stuff that you can lean on, always gives you time and out, or gives you like an excuse or whatever, right? So I do feel like some of these projects that are maybe not like slow rugs or they're legitimate rugs or unless they're like something that was just never about anything else, like that, they never said like, you're getting a game or a merch or you're getting merch or we're doing all this other stuff. Like they just say it's for the art. It's art. You buy it if you want, like ringers and fidenzas. Like there was no game coming for those. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the generative art is kind of like that. Then if excluding those, then the just in it for the art kind of thing is quite a like a bag holder ruggy kind of thing. Like it's an easy way to go, well, you just bought it for the art. Like art's great because it's so subjective that
yeah,
nobody can be like, well, that art shit. Like, I mean they
yeah. And
can, but
it's like what you and I were talking about before, and like you know, I had my own opinion on it. Like, and I think we kind of agreed in a lot of areas on that. Was that like I feel like it's almost an excuse for people, like it's a cop out for this, like how complex the NFT space is getting with like
mm-hmm.
DeFi projects, GameFi projects. Like um you know, it's becoming more and more complex, and I think some people just don't want to have to put in the time and the effort to find something that has utility in the space, and they just want to say like, oh, this is cool. If I think it's cool, other people will think it's cool, so like I'll buy it, it has value. And like I
Yeah.
said before when we were talking, like I feel like for something to really have legs to its value, it has to have some utility. Obviously, not the case for everything,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think like 9 times out of 10, you know, one being the exception, I think 9 times out of 10, you know, having some utility gives you some legs to your value.
Yeah, I mean, I think having something like really clearly defined, like I do think that with like generative art does have like its utility is like the art, which is great, which they have that set out from the beginning. I
Right.
think some like can have the utilities just like the flex as well.
Yeah,
Like you're
exactly.
just flexing,
It's the clout.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cloud is utility.
Cloud is
you
utility.
know bags those aren't great for carrying anything. It's got a lot of things have pockets. Cargo shorts have pockets, but they're not exactly a Gucci bag.
Right.
So
And I don't want to make it sound like there's no, yeah, I don't want to make it sound like there's no value to something that doesn't have utility aside from its art and its clout. But, you know, I do think that
yeah,
the more ways something can be used, the more people there are that the demand gets higher. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think people just needed the and it's the like onus is on the project founders and like community members to really like go, what is the utility here? And if there
Yes.
is nothing,
Yeah.
then like, okay, fine. Like, you like it for the art, like that's cool.
Exactly.
Then, the art's utility. But I think community is utility, with a few different examples, like the Proof Pass, or Proof Collective, sorry, with, the one previous to Moonbirds.
Yep.
Um, that, I mean, they're sitting at 84 ETH floor right now. So like
Insane.
financially, that's pretty nice too, because they started out at 1 ETH. Like you
Yeah,
could
it's
have gotten
crazy.
it at 1. So, I mean, but now you have, what they've done is basically they're cultivating a demographic, a group, that are really into NFTs, really into holding. And I think the real test of that is kind of like, I think you see this with like, an old, like medieval stories where, you try to bribe the king's like right hand man to kill something. Because on the one side you have being in the group, of being on the king's side, or on the other hand you have financial reward, right? It's
Right.
the same kind of mechanism with this. Like, do you sell your Proof Pass, or do you not sell it, or your Proof Collective, NFT? Like, so it shows, being part of that group, that you are at a level where you don't care about money, or
Hmm.
you're in it that you in it so much ideologically that you don't care about the money to
Hmm.
sell, because everybody knows you could get 84 ETH for it right now.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I mean it's true. I think that there's an added layer of choices to make when you invest in an NFT. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like investing in equities, stock, and you're just like, okay, I want to sell it at X amount. Like it's reached X amount, so I'm going to sell it. And it's like
Yeah.
you're not losing much there, but you could say that owning a piece of a company already associates you with the community, but there's no Discord for. I'm sure there is actually, but there's no
Discord for
huge.
like Microsoft holders.
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
hey, I get 16 shares.
Yeah, but there's like the utility on that, aside from the utility that comes with owning stock of any company, is not the same as like holding an NFT, being part of a community. So I think that there's another layer of like, do I want to sell this? Like, yes, I can get X amount, but I won't be a part of this anymore.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that common reality point that connects everybody who owns that NFT is now gone, and there's a bit of a, like, a betrayal, which I think some people are like, oh, like, it's never bad to take profits, and like, you should always do that, and then that there is some truth to that for sure, depending
Hmm.
on your like financial situation.
Right.
But there is a bit of a betrayal as well when you sell an NFT, if it's like, you're passed into the community. I mean, if you have like, 90 shoguns, like, I'm not mad that you sell, any or all of them. It's totally fine. It's up to you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
nobody's gonna be mad that you 89 now, but if you have
Yeah,
one pass, or one, this thing, like, and
that's
you
one less
sell it.
person playing the game.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If there's one less shogun in battle, that's good. Good for me. But no, I mean, then there's one less person for, like, the collective, the Proof Collective. There's only 1,000 passes, so it's pretty tight knit. And I know with like Neo Tokyo, that was like a big thing where like a lot of people were networking. That
Yeah.
was like the main draw. I mean, that is probably going to be the main draw for Proof, Collective now. So it's interesting. It's an interesting space, at least.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, well, I think,
That was
what,
about
do
that
we
was
have a
about
last
it
one?
for that was
Okay,
about it
cool,
on mine
cool.
for that article. So if you want to hop to yours, or I don't know what we want to
Yeah,
do now
no, I
that we're
mean,
at the hour mark.
I'm totally fine with whatever. The one I'm gonna about to get into is like pretty beefy.
Hmm.
Um, do we want to do that one? You read it as well, right? Financialization of NFTs.
Yeah, I gave it a skim. I'm not gonna
Oh,
lie
no
and say
worries.
that
Yeah.
I read every word, but I did give it a skim. If
It's
you want,
pretty deep. It's like, yeah.
if you want to, if you guys want a palate cleanser before we get into something a little bit beefy again, we could always just talk about Thales. Like I don't think it's a pretty short subject. I think it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. And so just something to talk about real quick so that everyone can get a break from the meaty stuff, and then we could hop over to the meaty financialization of NFTs.
Yeah, I mean, we could always do Thales too, and then we do the SEC. SEC. Is that one beefy too? I thought that one was pretty like
It's not
deep,
very
right?
beefy. I think that
Oh,
there's
okay, cool,
there's
cool.
a decent amount that you could talk about. Like I'm not going to break down the entire Reg ATS. I'm just going to talk about a little bit about what happened and
Boo!
why it's important.
No, we're
Which
not taking the bar later.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But
No, that sounds good then.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that then. For okay, so Thales is launching on Polygon. They were on another platform before. I forget the name, but it was another
Hmm.
scalable platform.
Another L1 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, cool.
So Thales is a protocol that allows for the creation of and participation in pari-mutuel markets. Which, if anyone doesn't know what a pari-mutuel market is, it's essentially, think options trading, like in stock. And so you're betting that a stock, or in this case, a coin. I think that they have. I know they have Ethereum. I think they have Uniswap. I don't know what other coins they have on there, but
Hmm.
you're essentially betting that a coin will go up or down. Um, and it, I'm not really being
Which is like a
unkind.
lot of these, right?
Yeah,
Like a lot of
exactly.
these are like options, and then there's like futures. I know sometimes it'll be like, if you don't know what this is, it's kind of like this. And I always think in my head, shit, what if I don't know what that is
Yeah, exactly.
either?
It's funny. I found myself tripping down a similar rabbit hole when I was reading the Anata thing. I was like, okay, I don't know what
Yeah.
VTubing is. Okay, I don't know what the software is, and I just like had to keep researching more and more. And then I was just like, wait, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna take a step back. It's not like I'm it's not like I'm on this
It's
team.
pretty funny.
I need to know the message.
Yeah, we need to get it. I mean,
Yeah,
but I think for the short version kind of options is basically the same thing, right? It's a bet that it's either going to go up or down.
yeah,
Um,
by a
and then the
certain
key
date.
difference, yeah, exactly, by a certain date. So you have like dates it cuts off, or you can have
Hmm.
perpetuals, right? That
Hmm.
are just constant, kind of like these are all just like financial mechanisms.
Yeah,
But if you think of it a lot like gambling, it's very, eerily similar,
yeah,
where it's basically just a bet. And then futures are basically the same, but they have like kind of just key differences of like
yeah.
timing or
It's a
what
market
you have
derivative.
to.
You're not buying the token itself. You're betting on it, and I'm not really being unkind when I say betting, because parimutuel. I
Mhm.
was looking it up, literally in French.
Yeah.
Put that down somewhere. Where did I put it? Parimutuel literally translates to mutual betting in French. So like no one is being sneaky here. Like we know what it
Yeah.
is.
It's spelled
But it's
out.
it's kind of cool because I was reading it, and like the protocol, as long as they can pull data from X, Y, or Z, it can work in like any binary market. And that means like you like I think they're planning on rolling out sports betting through
Mm.
this, which will be really interesting.
Sports
And
betting is illegal, but pari-mutuel markets
yeah,
are not illegal.
ex-
No.
exactly. But I mean,
Not
that's the thing,
gambling.
is like any binary, like yes or no question. Like, did this team? Are you betting that this team will win? Did they win? It's a yes or no question, right? Like, unless it's a tie,
Mm.
which like you don't see that in very many sports. Unless it's a
Yeah.
tie, it's binary.
Except for
And
soccer, I think, right?
yeah, exactly. So it is pretty cool. I like to trade options. I think that they're kind of fun way to get your betting fix without like having to go to Vegas.
Mm.
Um, it's there's a lot that I could talk about it in terms of like the inner workings of an option, like what theta decay is, or et cetera, et cetera. Like, but I just
Yeah.
don't think it's that important for this purpose. All you really need to know is that Thales exists. It's a platform that does parimutuel markets. I looked at it. I like went to the website. It's pretty. The UX is pretty cool.
Hmm.
So I would check it out just to get a sense for it. Uh, they have a really cool kind of theme to their entire website. Like Thales is, I'm definitely going to get this wrong, but I think he was some sort of Greek aristocrat, some sort of Greek philosopher, maybe. And
Hmm.
so he's kind of been the mascot for the entire project. They have like about Thales page on it, and it basically makes you play this like arcadey side scroller game where you get to like just kind of explore like how they came up with this idea. It's kind of cool. Like you'd have to log on to see what I'm actually talking about, but they're putting a lot of time into it. They have big plans. They talk about their plans. They talk about their plans on their website. So I would definitely look at it and just get a sense for what's going on here. And this may be a market that's growing quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds really interesting. I would love to do like a podcast, honestly, on options and stuff like that. I know people are usually like kind of scared by it. It's like one of those things that like it's like leverage. Like a lot of new people really get burned by
Yeah,
options.
financial
You know?
vernacular can be very daunting.
Yeah, it's crazy too because it's like some of it when you break it down, it's like really not that complicated. I mean, some of it is just really complicated, but it's
Yeah,
not too bad. Like you can make it pretty easy to understand once you just clear up the terms and stuff like that. But also,
yeah.
DopeX has Atlantic options that are actually like I think it was released this week or last. I think it looks like the Twitter post was the 18th of April, so just a couple days ago.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, we could break down something like that. Maybe for another podcast, we could do that.
No, I think it'd
But
be fun too. Like
you
even if
know,
we can get one of those guys on, I'm sure that they'd love to talk.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
we have connections over there, so we could definitely get some of those guys
Sweet.
on. I'm sure
Yeah.
they'd love to do it.
No, it
Yeah.
is. It's very cool. And to go to your point about like it being kind of complicated, like
Hmm.
it is. It is complicated in its nature. Like I think the more you understand something like this, the better you have a chance of like actually winning at something like this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be that 1 out of 10 case where like you just go in like completely empty minded, like you just put something down and you win. It's like betting, right? Like
Yeah.
black or red, like you could just get lucky. Um,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
in this case, like the more you know about these things, I think the more helpful it'll be in the future because you and I have kind of had our finger on the pulse, and like the Web3 space is getting more complicated. DeFi is getting more complicated.
Yeah.
We're seeing like a lot of like collateralization for debt with NFTs and whatnot. And like these are the sort of things that maybe you want to try to familiarize yourself with so you can take the opportunity to kind of leverage the growth in the space.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting from a couple different points. Like one from like the investor side of like if you want to know what the next wave that's coming, like there's DeFi summer, and then like whatever these projects were hot, and then NFTs were hot, and then DeFi was hot, and this was hot. Like really, I do think NFTs and DeFi, which is like the other article that I was it's just beefy as hell, but it's really interesting that that probably is going to be the next kind of wave that we're going to run into, like freeing up the liquidity that's in trapped, not working in NFTs.
Yeah,
But it's
no,
really tough to do.
yeah, definitely. You want me to hit the next point?
Yeah, for sure.
So the next point could be very dry. I will try to not make it dry. Could be very long. I'll try to not make it long. But essentially, what happened was the SEC recently proposed amendments to Reg ATS, which potential securities exchange. I'm literally reading off a tweet right here. So if I sound really smart, I'm literally just reciting what I'm reading.
It's the tweet. It's whoever it is.
Yeah, but essentially, like open to interpretation, Delphi Digital wrote a comment letter to the SEC, and the SEC has to read every comment letter that they receive. So
Huh.
it is going to hit them. Like it's not just like fan mail. Like it's not going to go in their it's not going to go in their mailbox, and they're just going to ignore it. They have to read it. They have to give it some thought, and they have to respond. And
Mm.
essentially, I read through their comment letter. It's 18 pages, so I didn't read the entire thing. Don't torture and kill me for that, but it's it's 18 pages. I skimmed through it, and essentially what they're saying is, this amendment to Reg ATS could essentially classify AMMs, so the auto market makers. It could essentially classify them as securities exchanges, and that would bring with it the entire set of regulations that the SEC has over securities exchanges. Which the argument that Delphi is making is that it's just unreasonable, especially like within the decentralized space. It's unreasonable to ask like you can make an AMM. One person can make an AMM. If it's classified as a securities exchange, you have to jump through all the legal barriers of, getting signed up as a broker dealer, doing all these things. These sort of expenses, like these legal expenses, are like millions of dollars to someone who potentially isn't really making that much money off of the thing they created. And especially within DeFi, I think part of the argument is like the SEC as an American body can't be regulating something that doesn't exist solely within one country, isn't rooted, it's not centralized to America. And so that's one of their arguments as well. Um,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a
Oh, and I was going to just say alternate. So ATS is alternative trading systems.
right.
Just so everybody, if anybody doesn't know
Oh
what that
yeah,
is.
sorry. I'm
Okay,
not breaking down my my acronyms
good.
here. I'm sorry. I just
That's
assume.
but
But
yeah, no, I mean that's a good point. Like, I mean, these guys too, like the government's job is basically to grab as much power as they can, and then the citizens or the people, whoever they're trying to take that power from, needs to basically just fight them all the way as much as possible because they're going to try it again and again. Like it's not a one time kind of thing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's a lot more to their comment letter. Like I don't want to touch on everything because it is pretty dry in some parts. But just know that if this thing actually does go through, like it could change the space significantly, especially AMMs. And Delphi with their golden cape is trying to fight for us.
That's good. I like it. The guys at Delphi do good work usually here. So, I mean, I think it is something that like we do as much as people hate like oh like big VCs or big any any rich person basically in DeFi or
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. Like you do need some legitimate organizations because they're the ones that are going to write these letters. Like, 7, 8, 9 figure degens, are not writing these letters.
Hmm.
Like they're just don't they're too rich to care, and they're not really like, not all of them, but like, they don't have as much of an incentive as, like a Delphi does when these kind of regulations affect portfolio companies. They need to go in there, and then, a lot of times they're doing what they think is right as well. So that's kind of why we need VCs, and we do need some of these bigger, more organized players.
No, definitely. And the other thing too is like, I don't want to make it sound like Delphi is like, oh, screw the SEC. Like they actually said like, the SEC, if they are to fulfill their actual mission statement, they would be working to our benefit, regulatory wise. But they're
Hmm.
just saying that this is completely like just a shot in the dark, like just an attack on AMMs, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, which is usually how it goes with the government. It's like they swing for the fences, and then you just have to go like, well, that's not really, that's not in the Constitution, or that's not legal. That's not legal. And they're like,
Yeah,
all right, fine, we'll tax you a little bit.
exactly.
It's like
Exactly.
that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Or
Just they're
like,
just gonna settle
set up
for
this.
like slightly regulated.
Yeah, or like licenses or something like
Yeah.
that. I know we that was in an article we were covering, but like Cronier's thing where his last article,
Hmm.
where he's saying basically like, oh, like you need regulated crypto and stuff like that. And like, I mean, I don't know. A lot of people are pissed at him because he like basically rugged again, I guess, and dipped. Not, that's the sentiment at least.
It's funny. It's
Um,
like the thing that we were talking about, like just carrying your ethos with you from project to project.
yeah, I think these guys too. Like when you've been in it as long as he has, and you've done as many like public, big, large projects, like there's a reason like a lot of celebrities have like PR teams, and they have these kind of like media, front facing media people, and because you do get so much like flack and shit. Like, being on Twitter it was probably just not good mentally for him. Like, you know, so that's the hard thing with about releasing a public coin.
Definitely. That was it for that one. If you want to take it away, cool.
Cool. Yeah, I think I'll probably go through a little bit of it just because it's going to be. I won't go into the details of kind of how it's working, but or how this is all supposed to work, because there's basically a bunch of protocols that are coming out that are going to work on getting trapped liquidity out of, basically NFTs. Like, so there's different ways to kind of calculate things. So they're tackling this problem of, well, how do you know what an NFT is worth, right?
Yeah.
So we look at those kind of different ways. Some are looking, basically at like using modeling, or using like AI, or using, different methods like that.
Hmm.
Um, but one of the interesting ones was actually, I think it's Abacus. They
Yeah,
were
I'm
doing it where
familiar.
oh, okay, good. You saw that one.
Yeah.
As far as I understood it, and you can throw in some details and stuff for sure. It's basically you have a pool of, so people with ETH put on one side of the pool, and then the person with the NFT has it on the other side, and that anytime it can kind of like the NFT owner can swap it, like they can just kind of sell it,
Hmm.
and you get incentives for keeping your ETH there and stuff like that. So it kind of, if you misprice it on the ETH side, like you overprice it, then the person with the NFT will just like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take ETH. I'll sell right now. Boom. But if you underprice it, then it's not efficient because you could be getting more rewards. I believe
Yeah.
is how it's going to work.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the mission there is to be able to value NFTs. That's a whole
Hmm.
other thing that we could talk about for a while too.
Yeah.
Just valuing something that's intangible. So I think the mission there is to be able to create a protocol for valuing NFTs. And I think the idea is that like you essentially like place your valuation of an NFT down, and other people do the same thing. And I think you get paid out. I'm not sure in what coin, but I know you get paid out,
I think it's
based
going to be
on,
an ABC, right? It's going to be an
yeah, it is.
abacus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you get paid out, based on how close you get to the valuation that it ends up arriving on. They have some complex
Mm,
algorithm for taking the pool of the valuations and putting it together and seeing like, if you're within 2% or if you're within 1%, then you get paid out a certain amount. And so it incentivizes people to actually like value the asset.
mm.
So it's pretty cool. I think they're doing a whole slew of other things too. Like I know that they're also doing like NFT collateralization. and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I think that that's the one thing that really stuck out to me is like the attempt to value something that is intangible, by nature, just difficult to value. Like you use the floor price obviously as like the floor for the value in something, but then like how do you value something that's middle of the tier, middle rarity? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, those are usually like the toughest spot to be at with an
Yeah.
NFT collection is kind of in the middle, and they usually lag the most overall, and they sag the most and they lag the most, kind of, because people are kind of not they're just not really good at pricing those as well.
Yep,
You know, like
exactly.
what's a 4% rarity versus like a 10% rarity, and it's like, oh, okay, well that's kind of like, like it's just kind of weird.
No, it is
Um,
it is tough, and it's like
yeah.
this mixture of like me being like, "Oh, I believe it's this price," and then people just being like,
Mhm.
"Well, like it's only middle tier. Like I'd rather just buy something cheap."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the argument for a lot of people are saying for, if you're going to get into a collection, you just buy all the floor. You just sweep the floor,
Hmm.
because they're floor. So if everything raises, they're at least they're going to be the first ones to sell.
Hmm.
And then also, so they're going to be the easiest to sell, and
And
you'll
they're the
have an
cheapest.
exact evaluation. Yeah, and they're the cheapest to get in. You can get the most
Yeah,
number of them, and then grails or like really high end or rares are just more subjective. So you could be
exactly.
off.
But you have more
So,
pricing power with the rare. That's the only
yeah,
exception. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I mean, you could have definitely a higher upside on it, like you hit the right rare or the
Hmm.
whatever, just depending on how, like, how well and how mature, how well priced and how mature the collection kind of is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it
Well,
is. It
cool.
is.
I
It
think.
is really cool. I think the Abacus protocol is something cool to check out. They have a white paper. I read it actually. They
Oh
have a
yeah,
lot of.
go into detail on that one, because I mean I liked it, and I was getting through. There's a couple different ones that were mentioned in there, so I didn't
Mhm.
jump into Abacus quite as deep.
No, no, you're
Do
good.
you
You're
want to go
good.
through?
That is really like the meat of it is just like their valuation, the collateralization of NFTs. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I'm just saying like if you want to give it, it's really just something that's ripe for growth is this method of valuing NFTs. Like, let's try to get the Web3 space valuation firms growing before the corpos get in.
Exactly. But the suits get here too much. Like, I mean, I definitely think there's some pros and cons with that. Like, it'll professionalize stuff, but I think people here can do it. Like, they have the skills. Like, the
Hmm.
Web3 native people can do these things. Um, But I think picking the winner as far as like an investment side, like just
Hmm.
talking about two different sides of it, like the investment side, this is probably where the kind of market and trends are going, I
Hmm.
think. And then from the, like, if you're a collector, getting, some ETH, half that ETH out and you can still hold the asset, getting a loan against it, is a great, I mean, you can then buy more of the collection if you wanted,
Hmm.
or, whatever. Like,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah. I mean, it comes with
nice.
its risks, but it does give you more opportunity for liquidity. It gives you more opportunity for
Hmm.
investment.
Yeah, definitely a lot more options if you can get it. Because right now, I mean, it's either you just sit on it, or I think Looks Rare too is going to offer some Looks tokens if you list on their platform pretty soon. Like, I think it's like
Yeah, I saw that. I think you sent that article
on.
to me, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
pretty cool.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody was saying that they were saying like most. I think it was Sisyphus was saying 50%. He's betting kind of like most of OpenSea's volume goes to Looks Rare in the next like week or something like
Yeah,
that.
pretty I mean, that's they have incentive now, right? Like,
Huge.
that's the thing is
Yeah.
like, if you can check all the boxes OpenSea does, and on top of that, you're paying out for people to listen, like, I think that's, I think there's a lot of incentive to move over.
For sure, and I think the valuation on it is getting a little bit more into the fair ballpark, for looks rare.
30,
And
40
then,
billion.
yeah, yeah, it's a little fairer, I guess. It's
Yeah.
not, it was better than before, but
No, no, no,
um,
I was just making up a number, I don't know what
yeah.
it
What
is.
are they at right now?
I have no
I'm
idea.
actually curious. Like, but also the fact that, if you account for, so like the top 25 projects do like 50% of OpenSea's volume. So
Mhm.
like they do most of it. If you get 25 projects moved over, the top 25 moved over, um, then you have 50% of OpenSea's business basically right
Yeah,
there.
which is crazy because 25 is not 50% of the volume of projects on OpenSea.
Yeah, it's crazy the kind of numbers that like they're
Yeah,
running through
it's
there. So I don't know. Let's see what looks is at right now. It's up 20%. So
holy shit.
she,
That's
um,
crazy.
but it's on, yeah, actually looks, its market cap's on 489 million right now, fully diluted. It's about 2 billion, which is FDV is, kind of a meme. So that's, I kind of traded that, I guess, like a little bit. Nobody
Hmm.
really looked, not a lot of people are looking at that. They were, there'd be some ones with much smaller market caps, I think.
Yeah, and market cap isn't always. I mean, it is in some cases.
Mhm.
A metric for growth, but no, not a lot of people are looking at market cap and being like, "Oh, this thing's gonna blow up," because then you'd be losing a lot of money or just kind of
Yeah.
staying stagnant. So, but it does
Exactly.
give you some insight into volume at least.
Yeah, I mean, all-time highs were at like $7, so it could be something that's good. No financial advice or anything, but like, something to take a look at. I do think this is kind of where the market's going, is NFT and DeFi kind of combining together,
Yeah.
and somebody's going to crack the code. JPEGs is another one that's actually really good, um, from the DopeX team. Uh, that could actually be the unlock as well. They have some over there.
Hmm.
Yeah, that could be it.
Very
For the
cool.
cool. Done an hour and 20 or so, so I think we could always wrap up.
Did you want
you
to? I
know,
mean, you can keep going on the financialization of NFTs too if you want. I know that there's a lot of points there. We kind of just stuck on Abacus, or if you're good, we could always wrap up.
yeah, I mean that one pretty. I really liked it. I think people should read it. It's about 12 pages. I think the kind of, for me, the key points were, basically that like, if you think about the how big the market is for NFTs. I'll do like the simplified version to make it fit into this since we started
Like
it.
this.
Yeah, and basically NFTs have so much liquidity that's in there that we could probably double the market cap of crypto if we unlocked a lot of it.
Jesus.
And yeah, it's like, it's crazy, and the amount of volume too is kind of, we know like a lot of financial products work on volume, like,
Hmm. Yep.
AMMs and stuff like that. So the volume would actually do. I mean, that could be the catalyst for the next bull run right there.
Yeah, and
Somebody
I
nailed
remember
that.
when we did our spaces, I brought up the point of NFT growth in the last like 2 years, and I think 2021, I want to say 20 is probably a lot more than that. I think it was like 100x. Could be just speaking out of my
Hmm.
ass, but it was very big in 2021, and in the first quarter of 2022, we've already beat 2021 sales.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's any indication of the growth in the market and the potential for unlocked liquidity, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was like 21,000% or some crazy number. It was like one of those ones where you're like, that's just
Yeah, that's
insane.
absurd.
Right? Like, it's a number so large, you're like, I'm not even gonna remember what it is. I'm just remembering that it was insane.
It was big. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah, big. But yeah, so that was one of the key points for market wise, where I think we're gonna go. Like, that could be the catalyst. Because I think everybody right now, what I'm feeling is like everybody's bullish, but like cautiously bullish. Like, so it'll kind of just be some switch will flip. I don't know if it's like the Fed thing, or like Fed
Mhm.
rates, or the war settles down, or whatever. But um I think something's definitely gonna pop, and then we're gonna be back into a full bull run. But it could be this. So that could be it. And then I think there was an interesting fact in there that was kind of a good point. Um that basically 75% of the Bored Ape holders don't have more, so they have 10% of their net worth is in stuff other than the Bored Apes. So like, basically they're like somebody that has a really nice house but
Mhm.
doesn't have a really good job. Like,
That's
they don't
crazy.
make a lot. Yeah, it's really wild. Like, so yeah, like their net worth is basically only the ape, which is amazing. But also, if those guys could then get a loan on that, and unlock that liquidity, then they may be players in, more NFT projects. So you could see project valuations skyrocket,
Yeah, and you just think of the
or into
volume
DeFi.
that brings too
Yeah.
to NFT projects. Like not even just liquidity, but just the idea that like this guy that owns a Bored Ape Yacht Club that's worth X amount takes out a loan on it, even if it's like 10%, 20% of the collateral, like takes out a loan
Hmm.
on it and goes into market and buys a bunch of other NFTs. Like think about all the volume that's driving. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for DeFi and for NFTs, because that person could then go, okay, I'm getting charged 10% interest for, 50% loan to value on my ape. Let's just say it's stable and it just doesn't really go anywhere. Um, and then they take that and they're paying 10% interest on it, and they go to like some protocol and they go, great, let's say Anchor or whatever, they convert to stable coins. They're like, I'm getting 20% on UST.
Hmm.
Stable coins not going down, whatever. There's risks and all of it, but it's a fairly decent, like, now they're getting 10% on 150 grand. They're getting 10% ROI, which for somebody who, that's a lot of money. Like, that's a lot of money. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
for
that's a
anybody,
lot.
that's a lot of
Exactly.
money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that could be like, that replaces their job. And they're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm retired. It's the difference between being retired and not being retired for that person.
Yeah, and there's like a whole nother philosophical leg to that too, of like this idea that those people are, it makes up 90% of their net worth and they're still
Hmm.
holding on to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the kind of thing where it's the mental, like, strain of that. Like, it's just how committed these people are to these projects. Like, a lot of
Yep.
them are 6 month long holders. Like, and I feel like it's amplified because, like, if
And
you
that's
have
like
like a,
60 years in the Web3 space.
exactly, that is like 60 years in the Web3. Like, but I mean, if you have like $1 million and then you're holding on to like 100K, like, okay, fine, that's not, maybe not a big deal. But if
Mhm.
you have like, 10 grand and you're holding, or let's say 30 grand to your name, and you're holding a $300,000 NFT that's just sitting there that could go up or down in any day, like, you could be losing your liquid net worth in like an afternoon for
Yeah.
board, like, for dropping. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
they're
it's
still
crazy.
doing it.
Yeah. It's
So
it's insane. That's exactly what I'm hammering on, is like it's crazy. I mean, it speaks to the mindset of a lot of these guys.
yeah, it's crazy, and I think for a lot of people too, they're gonna start realizing that these people are the next generation of crypto. Like, this is the crypto generation right here, where the next project, people are gonna look and see, yeah, Bored Apes was successful because people diamond hands it. It's the same way with Bitcoin, like, the hodl memes and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
it is a meme, but it's also kind of true. Um, and so I think that makes better and better communities for crypto, for NFTs in general.
Agreed. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, cool. On that note, that's pretty much it on those. I mean, that's the simplified version. Definitely check out the article. We could probably post a lot of these articles and stuff too, and different, where we're pulling stuff
Yeah,
out. Maybe,
definitely. I think
yeah,
we're
we'll get
we're
it
both gonna
around
do
that.
Twitter threads too, so you can always throw
Yeah,
it in there.
exactly. True, true, true. We can just link to those. Well, cool. I guess that's it for me. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll have more for you later.
Listening to our first podcast. Lots of jumbling our words, but I think that I think I had a good time. I hope
Yeah,
Matthias did too, and we
it's
enjoyed
tons of
it.
fun.
Definitely. Bye, guys.
Cool.